t distribution is very similar to like a z-score in a normal distribution. The curve is a little bit thinner as it goes, but everything kind of works the same way. So consider a t distribution with 21 degrees of freedom. Compute the probability t is less than or equal to negative 1.47. So here you have t is less than or equal to negative 1.47. So you're looking at this side. So you want to know what's the probability or what's the area under the curve right here that is shaded. Okay, so that's what we're trying to find. The degrees of freedom when you're talking about these is always, the formula for it is always 1 minus how many you're looking at. So n minus 1. So if you surveyed 26 people, then your degrees of freedom would be 25. So sometimes the problem will give it to you. Sometimes it's going to tell you n or what that is. And then you're going to go from there. So what that kind of does is it gives you less to work at. So the more people you ask, the better the numbers you get. So what this is going to say, okay, let's ask one less person or run the numbers with one less person, and that'll just make our numbers look that much better. All right, so we are going to use the calculator for this. So the calculator button that we're going to use looks like P of t less than blank, okay? And there's going to be two blanks that we're going to put in. So it's actually going to say something like this, where it has degrees of freedom. So we already know the degrees of freedom. The degrees of freedom is easy for us. That's just 21. It gives it to us. Since the calculator gives us the greater than or equal to, it's always going to find whatever area to the right of that line, okay? It's always going to find the area to the right. Well, you know everything under the curve has to equal 100% or 1. So what we're actually going to do to find the less than or equal to part of this is we're going to do 1 minus. So anytime you see less than or equal to, you're going to have to do 1 minus to figure out what your answer is. All right, so in the calculator, we're just going to do 1. We're going to go ahead and just do 1 minus the probability of t. So it gives us our two blanks here. So we're going to do that negative 1.47. Oops, oh no. So in the calculator, we can go ahead and do 1 minus the probability of t here. And we're going to do negative 1.47. And our degrees of freedom is 21. And we just press enter, and we get our answer. So 0.07819. It says at least 3 decimal places, so we can just leave that at 0.078. All right, so this other one, it says consider a t distribution with 9 degrees of freedom. Find the value of c such that negative c is less than t is less than c is equal to 0.99. So this one's kind of going backwards and saying, okay, let's figure out what t is. So we have our same curve here. It's saying t, what number gives us here? So we want to know what number gives us the probability being 0.999, or sorry, 0.99. Okay, so if we had the area of 0.99, what is the t that goes along with that? So what happens here is what we want to know, or one way to look at this, is we could look at the outside. So outside here, the red area, there's 2 tails here. So this would be a 2-tail test when you get to that. But you're looking at 2 here because you're looking at where is t in between. We're looking at the middle. So if it's 99 here and we know the whole circle is 1, so 1 minus 0.99, that leaves us with 0.01. But there's 2 tails here, so divide that by 2, so it's actually 0.005. Okay, so there's going to be 0.005 here and 0.005 here. So what we can do in the calculator is just actually use this t button right here and do t of 0.005, and that will give us our answer and tell us how much is shaded to the right. Okay, so we used this button here before because we were trying to find the probability. This one kind of gives us the probability, and we're trying to figure out what t is, so we use the opposite. So we come here and we do t of 0.005 because we're doing, again, 100% minus 99% is 1%. Cut that in half, so it's 0.5%. And then our degrees of freedom, it says, is 9. So we just put the 9 there. So the t value that would give us 99% in the middle, 98, is this number. What's it say? It says round to at least 3 decimal places, so we can just leave it since it says at least. Let's check that and correct. So let's do one more just to make sure we got it, because there are some different variations here. This would be a good one. All right, so on this one, consider a t distribution with 9 degrees of freedom. Compute Negative 1.36 is less than t, less than 1.36. Okay, so we're trying to find the probability. So they give us negative 1.36 and 1.36. So this one is probably the toughest one that you have here. And we're trying to find the probability in the middle. So what does this equal? What percent of that is shaded? All right, so we said the calculator only gives us, remember our button, is greater than or equal to. So you don't have to remember that because you can look at the calculator and see that. So it only gives us the greater than or equal to, which is going to be this part right here. Okay. So what we can do here, what they're going to show you to do in the notes is going to go find this one, the negative 1.36, and that's going to give you everything to the right. Okay, and then find this one, the 1.36, and that's going to give you everything to the right. So what that's actually going to do is subtract, and we can subtract these two numbers and take that off. So if we find the blue one, and then we find the red one, and then we can take this area off, it would give you what's left over in the middle. So we want to find P. We want to find P of t is greater than or equal to negative 1.36 with our degrees of freedom of 9. And then we want to find the P of t is greater than or equal to 1.36 with our degree of freedom of 9. And then we are going to subtract these, okay? This one would be the bigger number, so we would do this one minus this one, and that should give us our answer. All right, so we come here and we can go ahead and do it all in one swoop if we want to. We do negative 1.36 with degrees of freedom 9 minus this one of 1.36. So we did the negative, now we got to do the positive of 9. Oops, I don't want to do that. No, don't mess up. Undo. Okay. Enter. All right, so that would be a percentage under the curve would be 0.793. So 79.3% of the curve is shaded. And then on the other one, it is again the inverse. So we are looking at 15 degrees of freedom, and we want to figure out what number gives us 10% to the left. So we want to know what number goes here that is going to give us 10% to the left. Okay, so again, the calculator is going to give us the number to the right. Okay, we know since this is 10% to the left, anything on the left side of this is always going to be a negative number. Anything over here is going to be positive. So just like the z-scores, it's positive as you go to the right, negative as you go to the left. This is like based on 0. All right, so if the calculator is going to give us to the number to the right, it's going to actually give us this number over here, and it's going to give us this area right here. But since this is symmetrical, all we got to do is change that to a negative, and we should be able to get the left. So again, we're using all right, so if I do this button and then 0.10, and the degrees of freedom is 15. So that's the number to the right. So again, if we just make that negative, that will actually flip it and make it to the left. What's it say? Probably three decimals again. So yes. Oh, sorry, I was reading this. It says it's customary not to start the number with a decimal point. That's because I didn't put 0.793. I just put 0.793. Sorry, Alex.